Hi everyone, Kieran over Sapien from Filmstorm Studios, and I've got an exciting tutorial today. We're going to create a fast-paced hack and slash game, kind of like a Ninja Gaiden, pretty much like any of those samurai kind of Japanese games. So on my Gumroad, I've actually put up a pack for a sword anim set for hack and slash, and that's got heaps of animations in there for fast motion sword play. And I've also put a bonus inside that pack for a camera rotation for your controller, because we're actually going to have a look at developing this using an Xbox controller. So it will be using the keyboard and the controller, so that way I can show you how to move between the two. So let's just extract each archive to a separate folder, and then inside you'll see you have a Unity package. So first thing, I'm just going to import my Playmaker, because I always love to use the Playmaker. It makes everything a lot faster. Alright, let's install, yes. And that's just going to go through and import our package. Let's finish off that import. Any second, there we go. Alright, so that is done. So now let's create a folder, and let's call this our assets. This is where we can import our stuff. And let's just let's go to our folder again. Let's just drag in our sword anim set and import. Alrighty, so that's finished importing. It actually just imported it to that default folder. So just drag these into your assets, and you can see we've got all these assets already in here. And we've got lots of different kind of sword animations, and most of them have a kind of like a pause to allow the player to actually press the button again to set up combos. But we'll cover that in a second. So let's come into here, and this is our mannequin model as well. So let's start off by let's just create a plane. Very good. And that's at 0, 0, 0, and let's just rename it to the ground. You can quickly rename stuff by pressing F2. Alright, so let's drag in our mannequin, and let's make him at 0, 0, 0. First thing I like to do is actually make this mannequin a player, just so that way I know that that is the player model. First thing, let's create a new empty game object and call this player base, and this is where we can set up all our different bits and pieces. And let's drag the mannequin underneath the player base, so make sure you zero that out so it's all nicely in the center. Very good. Now let's create a new game object and call this camera base. And there's a quick thing, let's just zero this out. Quick thing I want to show you guys, if you import that other folder, the camera rotation, you'll actually see this is a prefab that I set up inside Playmaker to actually handle your camera rotation. So let's just basically drag this in. That's got that in there, so let's just delete this camera base and replace it. And you can see this is all perfectly pretty much set up already. And all you need to do for this camera base is come into your model. Let's create an empty object and call this camera follow. So basically this is what this camera is going to follow. So let's move this up to around his upper body, and let's just grab this number 1.311 and let's paste it in here. And if you go to the game view, this is what you'll actually see in the game. So let's you'll see here. So let's maybe bring this down. Okay, so I mean, we can adjust it. Let's just make it there. Now let's come back to our camera base and let's adjust this. So basically this camera follow, this is actually going to set this base to follow this object we just set. So let's just drag that object in. Cool. And what we need to do is we actually have to set up, if you press play, you'll actually see these errors. Right stick not set up and left stick not set up. or it's actually right stick horizontal and vertical. So what we need to do is come to edit, project settings, input, axes, and let's make this bigger by 20, not 2000, and let's make it right stick horizontal 0, oh, not 0, and just get rid of it, and make it 1 by 0.11, and make it a joystick axis, make it the 4th axis, and now let's make this one right stick vertical, and same thing, 1.0191 key joystick, and make this the 5th axis. So this one's the 4th and this one's the 5th. Alright, so let's come and press play. Alright, so I'm using my mouse here, and if I enable the on-screen controller, oh, it's actually saying disconnected. Sometimes it might not pop on and off. Let's just re-plug it in. Alright, so that controller thing is not working. But let's, so basically now I'm looking around with the controller. So now you can see that I've got the 360-degree movement ready to go. And let me just clear out these errors so you can see it's not generating any. So that is really nice. So, and you can see that you can't look too far down and you can't look too far up. So there you go. All right, so let's jump out of here and let's start to set up some of our movement systems. All right, so let's come to our mannequin. You can rename this to player if you want to. So this is our player object. So this can be whatever object you want as long as you've changed it to a humanoid. And by what I mean by humanoid is if you come to mannequin, in the rig you'll see humanoid. So as long as you don't have it set in generic, make sure you have it set on humanoid. That will ensure that this works really nicely. All right, so let's start to play around with some of the animations. So what we need to do is let's actually create a new folder. Let's create a folder that's just called animations. And I like to always just put the animator controller in here so I know what's happening, and movement_combat. All right, so let's come to the player object and drag this out here. And let's come to the animator tab and you'll see this blank space. So let's come to our assets, drop this down. You'll see we have all of this stuff. And if you have a look for the IDL, that's the idols. And let's have a look, that's the start of it. Let's find one where he's just standing. All right, let's just try this one. So idle sword relaxed. So when it's orange, that means it's going to start out. So if you press play, you can see that the player is just chilling. Okay. So in this animator, now that we have this set up, let's come and create some parameters which we'll set up in Playmaker. So let's make input X, input Z, and also input magnitude. Cool. Now let's set up, let's come back to our assets and let's make a sword run. That's not the run that I'm looking for. That's under move. There we go. So let's bring this guy, or not the left one, we want this one. And let's right mouse click, say create a transition each way. So you just right mouse click and you can select those. Now let's come into here and turn off has exit time. And we want to say input magnitude is greater than 0.1. And when you go back to the idle, we want to make this input magnitude is less than 0.1 and turn off has exit time. So now you can see if he's idle, wait till input, and then he'll start to run. And we can also just make this a little bit, so that's going to make it a lot more choppy, or you can have it over a longer period of time. And we've also got a run end, and this will just help to kind of blend that run ending. So what we can do is have this instead, just depends on which way you want to have it. So just go input magnitude is less than 0.1, same thing, and then leave this, have this exit time off, but leave this one on. Let's delete this, and let's also make a transition back to the run and say if input magnitude is greater than 0.1, we'll go back to the run. So say the player lets go of the controller, it will start to blend to stop, but then the player can actually use the thing again. Alright, so let's come and set up this movement parameters. Let's look up FSM. Good. Now let's actually say controller underscore movement. Alright, so this is for to control the player's movement across the game and also some of the combat. Cool. Alright, so let's just say set up parameters here. So this is basically where we can set global parameters, which will always happen when the game starts. But since we don't really need any of those, let's just create a new state and drag that down. And what we want to do is let's call this idle. And let's make this one movement. Oh, I keep leaving out that E. Let's put that E in. Alright, so let's come to here. Let's quickly go through and set this up. So let's say get axis 2 times. So press enter twice. You can see that it pops up here 2 times. Let's get axis vector. Let's set animator float 3 times. And that should be good for now. So let's come down to here. Let's get the horizontal axis and let's store that in input X. Let's get the vertical axis. Make sure you spell this right, otherwise it's not going to work. Input Z. Now let's come and let's move the camera, main camera to here relative to the main camera. Let's create a input vector and let's also create an input magnitude. So this is going to set up our movement controllers for us. Alright, so let's come up here. Let's set every frame for these guys. And let's just quickly come and click edit a couple of times to refresh our animator. Now let's say input X, input Z, and input magnitude. And we want to set these values as the values that we just made. So let's come and click these guys. Excellent. Now what you can do, you can probably just delete this movement one and then just copy and paste this guy and then just rename it movement, because we're only going to add one more state to this one, and we want to add smooth look at direction, and we want to let's scroll back down. Let's make the target direction the input vector, and we want to click this little equals and make this Y. So basically that's going to keep the player in the right direction and let us rotate depending on which way we're pressing with either the keyboard or the controller. So let's create a new event and say to movement or to idle. So to movement is from the idle and to idle is from the movement. Excellent. Now let's create a float compare. Now this float compare is going to move the states between each other. So let's click this and say if the input magnitude is greater than 0.1, we're going to go to the movement like we just kind of set up in our animator. And let's copy this and paste this in. And if 0.1 is less than the input magnitude, then we'll go back to the idle. All right, so let's give this a quick run and test it for any bugs. All right, so you can see that we've got the player, and now that when I'm pressing the keyboard, or I can use the controller and the sticks, and you can also see that we have that really nice little blend to stop the animation there. All right, so we can ensure that that's all, whoops, let me just jump back out of there, that's all working. Now what I want to quickly do is let's just create a new folder and make it materials. Oh, we've actually made one, look at that. One step ahead of ourselves, so let's just delete that. Let's come and create just one called floor, just so it makes it a little bit easier to see the floor. You can see we just dragged it out there, and I want to make it darker. Let's just click in here. There's going to be lots of different bits and pieces. Let's just scale up this. Doesn't have to be pretty, it's just so you can kind of get a representation of what's happening on the floor. All right. Oh, and also with the camera prefab that you downloaded, you know, when you press play, you might be like, oh, why can't I move the camera for a couple of seconds? You can actually change that. Let's just come to controller look FSM, and in here the loading, you can actually just make this like 0.1. So 0.1, bam. Okay, so that works perfectly. That gets rid of that delay for you. All right, so let's start to work on our combat system a little bit. So let's come and create a little sword. So let's zero this out. Let's press F to focus on it. We want to create it long ways against the positive Z axis, so which is that blue line. So let's just kind of, you know what a sword looks like. Let's just do something. Doesn't have to be pretty. Let's duplicate that, and then just, I mean, you would bring in your nice quality model for your sword, but this keeps the game running nice and smoothly for now. Excellent. Oops. All right, I think that'll do. Now let's just drag that cube under that cube, and let's also create a game object and call this sword. And let's drag these cubes under that. And what we want to do is see how the game object's kind of sitting here. We want to drag these cubes up, so then the sword's here. So that way, when the player rotates, it rotates from the handle. So that's going to be pretty cool. All right, so what we can do now is let's actually just maybe, now I'm looking at, let's just scale it up a little bit. All right, now let's open up the character, and this is his bones. And since it's probably I think it's right-handed animation, let's go to clavicle, right upper arm, right hand. Cool. Let's drag in that sword, and let's zero it out so it's sitting around about where his hand is, and let's move it into his hand roughly. What we can do first is then just press play, and then you can see that we actually have the nice hand closed. So let's just roughly move it into his hand. Alright, let's just put that in there, and let's move the hilt down because no one holds it up that high, and let's copy that transformation of the sword, jump out of there, and let's paste those position values so you can see it just updated. Alright, so now you can see that we've got that sword. Okay, maybe it is a little bit long because it's dragging, or alternatively what we can do is pause it, and then we can actually rotate it in the direction that we want it. Alright, that actually looks pretty cool. Let's even just maybe scale it down a tiny bit, and let's copy this and then paste it in there. Alright, so let's press play now. Alright. Cool. Now, one thing that I want to set up, just because once we start to test, it's actually going to look really cool. Let's have a nice drink of coffee there. let's come to this cube and let's create an empty object, and let's call this trail. And this is going to be like, have you seen in those anime games, or especially the Persona games, when people punch and they leave trails, especially like sword swishes and stuff? What we're going to do is we're actually going to set up something like that. So let's come into this material and let's call this trail renderer. And let's come down to this standard and click particles additive. And let's click select. And if you scroll down, you'll see default particle. That will do for the time being. So what we want to do, click on this trail object and let's click trail renderer. Come into materials and let's drag our trail renderer. And let's make the width 0.1 just for the time being, just so you can see what's going to happen. And let's make the time 2, just so you can see what's going to happen. And if I move around, you can see that that particle is actually leaving a trail. But that's not exactly what we want. So let's come into here. Let's just make it something harder like this. All right, so there you go. So you can see we've got this kind of trail happening. And that's quite a long trail. What we can do, we can also adjust this. So let's make this like 0.05. Let's make the time 1. And let's try this again. All right, so that looks pretty cool. And especially once you start doing like swishes and stuff, it's gonna look really nice. So what we can do now is let's start to set up the buttons for attack. So I guess if you're playing on PC, you're gonna be using the mouse, or if you're gonna be using the controller, you'll probably be pressing the X or the Y, maybe for heavy or fast sword animations. All right, so how are we gonna do this? Well, let's bring this guy back up. Firstly, we need to actually set up the combat animation buttons. And if you open up your web browser, if you go to wiki.unity3d.com/index, blah, 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 just copy that in. You'll see if you scroll down, you've actually got these buttons. And it actually tells you what input button each of these are. So let's say we want X, which is on the Xbox, is the left face button for the combat things. We want to make that 2, which is this button. And to be fair, I'm actually using the Xbox One controller and there's not really much difference between them. So to set up the X, let's make that the fast attack button. So let's go to edit, project settings, input, make it 22 because we want that. Alternative, let's actually just make that 20 again, because in mouse, in Fire 1, that's actually already set up for us. So let's get rid of that. So Fire 1 is actually the left mouse button. So let's make that light attack. And mouse 0 is the left mouse button. So let's make this light attack as well. But see how this is joystick button 0? If we come back to here, we want to make it joystick button 2, because this is actually, that would actually be the A button. So let's make this joystick button 2. Cool. Let's come back to here and let's make a new FSM. And let's call this the combat. We control the combat animation blending here, just so you know what what we're controlling. So let's say the player is not pressing anything. Let's create an idle. So this always comes back to here when we're not pressing anything. Let's create an event and set to press light attack. So let's just say we set up the button press and we need to say, okay, the player's pressed the light attack button, let's play an animation. So let's just put that there for the time being. Get button down is going to be the button which will, instead of Fire 1, we're going to change that to light attack. And we're going to say send to here. So let's just do a quick test. Let's press play. I've got my control, let's press X, bam. All right, and also let's do a mouse test. I'm gonna press the left mouse button and bam. Okay, so that's all working the way it should be. Now what we can do is I like to kind of randomize the animations. So let's come into here and say event random. Or actually, it's a different send random event. That's the one we want. Okay, now in our events, let's make light attack 1, light attack 2, light attack 3. And let's make these events light 2, 3, and let's just control click out here and drag these guys into here. So you can see what we're doing. We're creating like a branch for the combat system. So we'll say pick random move, and let's put 1, 2, and 3. So if you press play and press X, okay, it picked that state. Press play, press X, pick that one. Sometimes we'll have to adjust the moves, but see that time it picked 3. Okay, so that's obviously working well. Okay, so now that we have these, let's close this out and bring up our animator. And let's create a substate machine, and let's call this light attacks. So this is where we're gonna set up our stuff. To get into here, just double click. That's how easy it is. Let's come to our assets. Now let's come to here. We've got some of these. All right, so let's make this one, let's just call it light attack 1. Actually, let's keep it all named the same, otherwise we're gonna get confused. All right, so you come to here. Which one was that one? All right, so it's this one, this one. Let's just drag a few out because they're all pretty cool. D, I think I dragged D out like heaps of times. D, A, B. Okay, let's just delete all these other D's I just dragged out. All right, so let's make this one, and this one. Okay, so now we have the 3 animations that we're going to start off with. All right, now let's, where are we? Come back to here. Let's come back to combat. Pull this down. Now let's say play animation. So what we want to do is actually have play, or crossfade, animator crossfade. And let's make the transition duration 0.02. State name is ATK underscore sword 2 underscore C underscore forward underscore 1. It'd probably be better if you just copied and pasted it. Let's just copy that and let's chuck this in here, and let's just change these. So this is that's D, and paste this one, and then this one is gonna be A. Now because we haven't set up any blending back to the idle, because I actually want to create a combo system, let's just press play and give it a try. Alright, so you can see that that trail is actually quite thick, so let me just fix that up quickly. Let's make it even smaller. Alright, so it plays that animation and then stops because we haven't set up any of the other blending. Cool. Alright, so let's jump back to here. And what we can do now, since we have this, oops, And oh, actually this last one almost got me because this is a 3. So make sure you keep, it's probably better if you just copy and pasted it, because that way the names are exactly the same, and that way the animations will play. So let's say play animation 3 and play animation 2. Groovy. Now we want to say, if the player doesn't do anything, let's make this wait. If the player doesn't press a button, let's say 0. What do you reckon? 0.7? Wait, which one did I make that in? This one. 0.7. Let's say the player doesn't press the button to attack again in 0.7 seconds. We're gonna say finished. Let's go back to the idle. So finished. So let's make finished. Whoops. On each of these, let's hook these back into here, and let's copy this wait onto the others. Excellent. So that's looking really good. So now what we need to do is actually make a boolean in here. So let's set animator bool. And we need to create a boolean in the animator. So let's create a bool and say not attacking. You'll see that it says none. We have to come back in here and click edit to refresh. Not attacking. And let's make it unticked. Now, when we click here, let's make this one not attacking is actually not attacking should be, let's not make it not attacking, let's make it attacking, because otherwise it's gonna say like a yes, yes, no, no kind of thing. You'll see what I mean in a second. So let's just make, let's click here. Oh, we have to just bring this back in. Attacking, make it attacking. Okay, so see how that makes more sense? Because if attacking is unchecked, that means we're not attacking. But if it was checked, not attacking, you're like, oh, what is it attacking or is it not attacking? So that makes a lot more sense. All right, so basically, let's just click play, drag this on the side. Okay, so that all happened very quickly. Just have a look at what's happening up here. Okay, so that actually didn't set in time. So let's actually just copy this in here as well. Cool, cool. Now, since this is sending that it's not attacking anymore, that's a way we can make it blend back to idle. So let's click enter. Oh, let's just drag this back so I have more room. All right, so up here is where we can make it go back to idle. So let's say make transition states idle states. Bugger, made it the wrong one. States idle states idle. Okay, so that's blending back to the idle state, but we only want it to do it if attacking is false, if attacking is false, and if attacking is false. Okay, so let's press the attack button and it blended back. Okay, so you can see that it's actually, that 0.7 seconds isn't enough time for the animations to finish. So let's just increase that weight to maybe 0.95. Why 0.95? Because maybe it might be better. Who knows? We'll see. All right, so let's come into here. Let's press the attack button again. All right, so that's actually looking much better. And you would think in between those blends we could actually set up more animations, and you're right. So let's come into the animator. Let's move this guy under. Let's come back to our assets, and let's have a look at some of these others. So have we got that one? We got B? No, we don't. So let's. Oh, we've got B there. Okay. Well, I didn't see that. So let's do we have C underscore 1? Okay, let's make C underscore 2. I actually kind of want to line these up a little. So let's make C underscore 2 and B, because see how they're kind of in order. And let's make A sword 3. Actually, let's make delete that. Let's bring in sword 3B, 3C, and 3D. Okay, that's 2D. Let's make this okay, let's bring this in. Let's make this 2A. Don't worry about the name, they can stay the same. Let's make this 2B, 2C, and 2D. Okay. All right, and then that's C. And let's bring in, let's have a look. We've got CD, D, and D. All right, so we've got 4 animations in each combo. So this will make it feel really fresh. So how do we set up these things? So we need to set up a new boolean to say attack pressed. So let's make this button pressed. And we'll only go to this next one if the button is pressed. And this exit time is going to be a bit sooner than this one. So that way, this will actually, if the button is pressed, it will blend to that one sooner. So you can see we've kind of got this happening. Excellent. And let's just do the same thing for these guys. Oops, sorry, exit time must be there. Button press. And the thing with combat games is it's really all about animation blending. So you really want to make sure that the timing feels right and the blending is right. That's why I kind of made this go in order of the actual animations. So the button pressed is true. Okay, so you can see this is going to take a little bit of setting up. First, let's just go through and maybe connect all these animations. Okay. And then let's come in and make these. And you just want to drag the actual button presses back a tiny bit so they'll be triggered before the back to idle. So let's make this. And let's make this. And let's make this. Alright, so let's just move these guys back a tiny bit. Oop. Okay, now for each one, if it times out, we want to go back to idle. So, bam. If attacking is false, go back. If attacking is false, and you get the idea. We're just going to go through and do this for each of them. Whoops. Just want to make sure. Oh no, I made that. We want to make it attacking is false. My bad. See how it's easy to make it a simple little mistake like that? So you just want to keep on top of it. Make sure you're putting the right ones in. So attacking is false. Back to idle. Attacking is false. Shoo, okay. Attacking is false. Attacking is false. Okay, so we've got that whole blend tree kind of set up between all the different blending and everything. So what we need to do now is actually set up those button presses. And the good thing about the button press using the Boolean is we don't have to go and label every single different animation. So let's come to combat. Let's just make this button pressed. And then let's make this button pressed an event. So let's come in right mouse, button pressed, and button pressed. So you can actually see what we're doing here. We're actually creating these blend trees to set up the different firing actions. And because we're all just using the same Boolean, it makes it a lot simpler. So let's come and say get button down, that light attack button, and button pressed. And you can see if it times out, it just goes back to the idle. So this is a really nice way of doing it. Alright, so this goes here. So we need to make this one. So once the players press that, we need to set animate bool to say, hey, no, we're actually press the button. And then that will trigger that. Alright, let's copy this and paste this here and make this no, there was no button press, so that resets that side. And alright, so that's cool. Now we need to make it wait. So let's say the players played this first animation, we've pressed the button again, and it goes to here. We need to say, okay, let's wait for maybe like 0.4 seconds. Just so it stops the player mashing the button. And this is either going to be finished again after that 0.95 seconds. Let's just call it check for spamming. Because you know in action games you just want to smash that button. And this is going to screw up our animation system. So once that button's set, let's move it to here. And we want to say get button down again. Button pressed. Let's grab this, chuck that in there, and let's move this back here. Alright. And we want to turn this off because when we're sitting here, we're not actually pressing anything. And we've already triggered that button press in this animation, or in this state. So let's just give it a little run. Let's see what's going to happen. Is it going to behave, or is there going to be some sort of error? Who knows? Let's find out. So we've got our player. Actually, first thing, let's just turn off these gizmos. We don't need to see all that. Let's just end those end these states. Let's just say show state labels in game view. Let's turn that off. Cool. All right, let's jump in here. All right, that looks a lot better. All right, let's press the X button once. All right, so it blended nicely. All right, so let's press it again. All right, so you can see something's not triggering properly. So you can see we press it again, and it's actually blending towards that. So what I want to do is actually, I just want to split this so I can kind of see what's happening. Alright, so let's say so I'm pressing it again. You can see it's in the other state. Alright, so it's obviously see how the button pressed actually turns off by the time the animation finishes? Alright, so that's actually one thing that we need to quickly change. So let's jump into here. Let's snap this back here. And I think I might realize what I've done. We never actually, when we were making these go down, we didn't drag these back a bit. So let's just come through and move these guys back. Button pressed is true, button pressed is true. Alright. Alright, let's just give that a shot. Okay. And actually, let's also make this go, so say if we press that button, what is it, the button pressed, if it's true, let's also make it go to that next one, so that way we can kind of continue the flow. So it doesn't just stop when we're at the end. And let's bring this up here, and then let's also make this one connect back to the start of the loop. And bring this in here. So you can kind of see we go bang, 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 and then what's happening, if I keep pressing X, nothing's going to happen, and then it's going to go back up here. But now it's going to go, okay, bang, 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 okay, bang, 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 okay, and let's start again. So we're going to have that kind of a flow. So let's just... Alright, so obviously that is still causing us an issue. Let's jump in here. Let's just make that small. Okay, so let's say we press... Okay, we've got this, right? So let's press the hit. You need quick eyes. Okay, actually what we can do is make this let's just turn that one off, so that should theoretically keep it attached. So we've got some sort of crazy thing going on. Not sure if that's actually what we wanted. I'll show you in full screen. So you can see we're blending between all the animations now, and it's working quite nicely. And if I stop pressing the animation, we actually go back, so it's working the way we need it. And that was just because this button was ticked on for some reason. So let's come back to here, and you can actually see some of the blends weren't working. And as I said, fighting games are all about that, the blending between the animations. So let's close this down now. And what we need to do is actually play between each of the animations, and this is actually what you'll be seeing in the game. So let's say, okay, we want here, and let's maybe bring this in. Slice, slide, and then he goes up for that power move, and see how he's kind of just sitting here. Alright, so let's have a look again. He goes up to stop. Let's make this back a bit. Alright, let's play this. And then see how he has that big pause. So we need to say, okay, if the button was pressed, we need to blend in right now. Okay, and then we blend into here. And if the button's pressed, okay, cool, cool. This one, let's make it if the button's pressed here. Okay, and then if the button's pressed here. Okay, that one looks nice already. If the button's pressed here. Move that one a little bit so it kind of lines up with that line. That one looks cool, so that one's fine. Sure, that one's fine. And then just blending back to this one. Alright, so let's play through this now. This should actually look a lot better. Alright, so here we go. We've got our combo animation system set up. And I let go. Let's start again. Alright, so that's actually looking pretty cool. So that's the combo system set up. But you can see that that jumping one. The blending back to the, let's see if I can get up to that jumping one again. There you go. That actually blended a lot better, just because I released it right at the start. Alright, so I think that's actually pretty good for today's tutorial. And we've basically set up that whole first combo animation system, and we've set up the trails, we've set up the movement. We've set up the controller looking systems. We've brought in our custom prefabs and animation packs, which you can get from Gumroad, which will be in the description. Wow, and this tutorial has gone for about almost an hour, so you're getting a good one today. And right after this, I'm going to start working on the second part, which will be setting up some sort of damage system along with the enemy AI and the kind of dueling combat systems, which should be a lot of fun. So thanks everyone for checking this out, and I hope to see you in the next tutorial.